On the afternoon of October 18, 2023, at approximately 16:42 hours, the Wayne County Sheriff's Office received a 911 call reporting a deceased female in a cornfield off Township Road 62, 5 miles north of Wooster, Ohio. The caller, a local property owner harvesting late corn, identified the body as that of Michelle Kessler, a former classmate of his from Triway High School, class of 2008. Upon arrival, deputies observed the body positioned prone in shallow earth, partially concealed beneath collapsed stalks. Early autumn conditions were dry, with ambient temperatures recorded at 64 degrees Fahrenheit. No signs of animal predation were noted, and the body appeared undisturbed from initial placement. The victim was dressed in black athletic wear and running shoes. A post-mortem contusion was visible at the temple, ligature marks were noted at the neck and left wrist. A set of discarded zip ties was recovered 12 feet from the body, partially covered by leaves. Preliminary examination suggested death by asphyxiation. No identification was found at the scene, but the victim's identity was confirmed via fingerprints by 2019 hours the same evening. Background checks revealed that Michelle Kessler was a 33-year-old resident of Akron, Ohio. She had worked as a regional HR manager for a medical staffing agency. Kessler had no criminal record and was reportedly training for a half marathon. According to mobile data logs, her last known location was a jogging trail south of Canaan Marsh. Her car, a 2016 Ford Escape, was recovered in a gravel pull-off approximately 1.4 miles from the body. Interview with next of kin indicated that Michelle had planned to visit her childhood home in nearby Apple Creek that same evening. No threats, suspicious relationships, or recent arguments were reported by friends or family. Investigators began canvassing her past for relevant connections. A common point of discussion arose among her high school classmates, many of whom characterized Michelle as popular, loud, and occasionally cruel. Several recalled an incident during sophomore year in which a peer, later identified as Judith Lynn Bremer, was the target of a prolonged bullying campaign, largely instigated by Kessler and two friends, culminating in an off-campus confrontation that led to Bremer's temporary hospitalization for anxiety and physical injuries. Records showed that Judith Bremer, now aged 34, had legally changed her name in 2011 to Julia Lynn Brent and had relocated multiple times over the past decade. Her current address, confirmed via DMV records, was listed in Chillicothe, Ohio. Employment records showed intermittent jobs under the Brent name, mostly clerical temp work, with no stable residence longer than 2 years. A cross-check of license plate scanners and cell tower activity placed a vehicle registered to Julia Brent within 1.2 miles of Township Road 62 during the afternoon of October 18, the same timeframe as the estimated TOD. Detectives initiated contact. Julia Brent was brought in for questioning the following morning. She was cooperative but emotionally detached. She denied being in the area, claiming she had spent the day at home recovering from a cold. Investigators noted inconsistencies in her timeline. No visible injuries were noted, but undernail debris was collected by court order. A pair of dirt-stained sneakers was recovered from her residence. By October 21, forensic testing confirmed that the zip ties found near Kessler's body bore latent prints matching Brent's right thumb and middle finger. Soil on the soles of the recovered sneakers matched the field's unique loam composition. At 18:17 hours, Julia Lynn Brent was arrested and charged with second-degree murder. She did not resist. On October 22, 2023, at 9:02 hours, Julia Lynn Brent, formerly Judith Lynn Bremer, was interviewed at the Wayne County Sheriff's Office under audio and video recording. Present were Lieutenant David Lanning and Special Agent Alicia Sorrell from the Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigation, BCI. Brent waived her right to legal counsel in writing. Her demeanor during initial questioning was steady, unhurried. She spoke in full sentences and rarely broke eye contact. When confronted with the forensic evidence, zip ties bearing her prints, and soil from the victim's burial site matching the treads of shoes recovered from her home, Brent acknowledged the physical link but offered a cryptic explanation. She stated, "You think I did this alone? You're wrong. This didn't start last week. It started 15 years ago, and I wasn't the only one they went after. She then named two other former classmates, Erin Jo Chambers and Naomi Pritchard, both listed as residents of Ohio, both confirmed members of the 2008 graduating class of Triway High School. According to Brent, these women had maintained loose contact over the years via social media. But, she claimed, in the past 6 months, all three had reconnected privately over encrypted group messages, sharing stories of their respective harassment experiences. Brent alleged that Michelle Kessler had not reformed after high school. She claimed Kessler used her position in HR to blacklist Erin from nursing contracts in 2019, a fact investigators were later able to verify. She further stated that Naomi had suffered a miscarriage in 2016 after a confrontation Michelle provoked at a mutual acquaintance's wedding, though this was uncorroborated at the time of writing. Most critically, Brent asserted that she had not been at the cornfield alone, and that the fatal act had not been committed by her. I helped lure her there, yes. But I didn't kill her. I left before it happened. I couldn't stay. This declaration halted the interrogation. Brent invoked her right to counsel shortly thereafter, ending the session. Investigators turned attention to Chambers and Pritchard. Contact was first made with Erin Chambers on October 23, 2023. She voluntarily appeared at the Canton BCI field office and denied all involvement. She stated she had not seen Brent or Kessler in over a decade. However, a review of mobile metadata showed that Chambers' phone had been powered off from 13:12 to 18:37 on the day of the murder, an unusual break in activity, considering her documented pattern of near-continuous digital engagement. Additionally, toll booth surveillance from U.S. Route 30 eastbound captured a vehicle matching Chambers' 2011 Honda CR-V near the Worcester area around 14:23 hours on October 18, the exact window in which Kessler is believed to have been abducted. The trail led next to Naomi Pritchard, who had legally changed her last name to Fenton following a 2017 marriage. When contacted at her residence in Mansfield, she appeared visibly shaken, denied knowledge of any incident, and refused consent for a search of her property. A warrant was issued within 12 hours. On October 24, 2023, investigators conducted a search of the Fenton residence. In the basement freezer, wrapped in wax paper and sealed in vacuum bags, officers found a wallet belonging to Michelle Kessler, with her driver's license, expired credit cards, and a handwritten note folded inside. The note read, "This is the only apology you'll ever get. J." Under UV light, additional writing was revealed on the inner flap, a partial fingerprint marked in black permanent ink. Subsequent lab analysis confirmed it belonged to Brent, but investigators concluded it had been intentionally left. The case had shifted. While Brent remained in custody, the timeline now indicated a larger orchestration, one that could not yet be mapped in full. Evidence no longer pointed to a single impulsive act. It suggested a plan. Following the recovery of Michelle Kessler's wallet from Naomi Pritchard Fenton's residence, the investigative team designated all three former classmates, Brent, Chambers, and Pritchard Fenton, as co-conspirators under review for potential joint criminal enterprise. On October 25, 2023, warrants were issued for both Chambers and Pritchard Fenton for aiding and abetting in destruction of evidence. Chambers surrendered without resistance. Pritchard Fenton was taken into custody at her place of work, a dental supply warehouse in Mansfield. During initial interviews, both women denied involvement in the murder. Chambers insisted her visit to Worcester on October 18 was unrelated, citing a claimed stop to visit her uncle, though no such individual could be located at the listed address. Pritchard Fenton refused to answer any questions and invoked the Fifth Amendment shortly after booking. In an attempt to reconstruct the timeline, authorities performed digital forensic audits on all three women's devices. Despite encrypted messaging apps being used, cached data fragments and metadata confirmed that on September 8, 2023, the trio met in person for the first time in over a decade. The meeting occurred at a privately rented cabin near Mohican State Park, booked under an alias matching Brent's known pseudonyms. Inside Brent's apartment, investigators recovered a hand-drawn diagram found tucked into a copy of The Gift of Fear by Gavin de Becker. The diagram consisted of three initials, J, E, and N, connected by arrows pointing to the name MK at the center, circled twice. Below was written, "She'll walk into it willingly." The full meaning of this phrase became clearer on October 27, when data pulled from Brent's deleted email drafts revealed a scheduled running group notification sent to Kessler 2 days before her death. The address listed was a trail preview run at Canaan Marsh, the exact location where her car was later found. The invite came from a spoofed account, runnersohio2023@protonmail.com, registered to a masked IP. Investigators traced the registration through a VPN server in Canada. The account was created using the public Wi-Fi of a coffee shop in Chillicothe, located less than a mile from Brent's residence. Digital handwriting analysis and stylometric patterning suggested the email was authored by Chambers, not Brent. This revelation realigned the investigative focus. Chambers, initially perceived as the most emotionally distant from the incident, was now considered the logistical architect of the encounter. Surveillance review showed her vehicle arriving near the jogging trail nearly 40 minutes before Kessler. Witness testimony from a mail carrier along Township Road 62 described seeing a blonde woman sitting in a parked car near the clearing, reading from a small notebook. Upon re-interview under custodial conditions, Brent confirmed the essential structure of the plan. Aaron baited the hook. Naomi set the location. I was the middle, the bridge. What Brent refused to clarify was what happened during the final moment, who committed the fatal act. She claimed not to know. According to her version, after guiding Kessler off the trail under the pretense of a nearby course marker, she stepped back and walked away. But forensic evidence contradicted this. On October 28, 2023, the State Crime Lab completed a secondary analysis of the zip ties found near the body. Not only did they contain Brent's latent prints, but microscopic particulate under the locking head of one tie contained skin cells and trace moisturizer residue. DNA analysis confirmed Naomi Pritchard Fenton had handled the zip ties after Brent. When confronted, Pritchard Fenton maintained silence for 5 consecutive hours. At 19:06 hours, she made a spontaneous statement without prompting. It wasn't supposed to happen like that. Not on the trail. She then requested legal representation, ending all further dialogue. Investigators interpreted this as indirect confirmation that the location of death had not been prearranged, and that something had gone awry. Meanwhile, forensic pathology reported a revised autopsy note. Kessler had suffered a sharp contusion to the larynx inconsistent with typical ligature compression. The force pattern suggested a sudden elbow strike, followed by a brief constriction, as if the killer panicked during a confrontation. An unexpected witness surfaced on October 30. A retired biology teacher, Miss Carolyn Withers, reported that she had seen 2 women arguing in the trees near her property line, roughly 600 yards east of the cornfield. The time matched the 15 to 15:30 window when Kessler was last active on her fitness tracker. Withers identified one woman as having tight blonde curls, the other, taller, black coat, auburn hair pulled back. She did not see the full altercation but heard shouting, then silence. Based on Brent's build and known hair color, the woman in black was likely her. The blonde with curls matched Chambers, not Pritchard Fenton. Yet Chambers had denied ever leaving her vehicle. The evidence was building not toward a unified, mutual plan, but a fracture within the alliance, where intention met chaos, and blame began to split along invisible lines. Investigators now suspected that only one of the 3 had actually killed Michelle Kessler. But which one? By November 1, 2023, the unity between Brent, Chambers, and Pritchard Fenton had collapsed under interrogation pressure and growing forensic contradiction. Each now attempted to reduce individual culpability by shifting focus onto the others. The turning point came when Brent, in a follow-up interview, asked to correct the record. Under advisement from counsel, she stated the following. Aaron said no one would get hurt. She told me we'd just scare her, make her relive what she put us through. Naomi brought the ties, but Aaron was the one who changed the plan. I left when Michelle fell. She was still breathing. Chambers, meanwhile, reversed course. In a revised statement delivered through her attorney, she claimed Brent had snapped, attacking Kessler without warning after a brief verbal exchange. Chambers insisted she stayed by the road, never witnessed the assault, and only learned of Kessler's death after receiving a call from Naomi that evening. But call records did not support that timeline. The strongest contradiction came from Pritchard Fenton, who submitted a letter to the prosecution under seal. In it, she described a sequence in which Brent initiated the physical confrontation, but it was Chambers who applied the ligature after Kessler resisted. Jules froze. I thought she'd pull her back, but Aaron took the cord and wrapped it twice before either of us spoke. It was fast, like she'd rehearsed it. Handwriting analysis confirmed Naomi wrote the letter. Its contents, while not a formal confession, effectively accused Chambers of the kill act. With no weapon, no direct video, and no admission, the prosecution faced a strategic dilemma: 3 co-conspirators, 1 victim, and only circumstantial proof of who delivered the fatal act. By November 4, 2023, the Wayne County District Attorney's Office, under pressure from the Ohio Attorney General's Criminal Division, entered negotiations for a plea arrangement. The complexity of the case, 3 defendants, 1 fatality, and no eyewitness to the exact moment of death, made a guaranteed murder conviction for all parties increasingly tenuous. Prosecutors offered conditional plea deals to secure testimony. The first to accept was Naomi Pritchard Fenton. On November 6, she signed a cooperation agreement in exchange for a reduction to manslaughter, second degree, and accessory after the fact, carrying a potential sentence of 9 to 15 years with eligibility for parole after 7. In her sworn statement, she reconstructed the final 48 hours leading up to Michelle Kessler's death. According to Pritchard Fenton, the plan was initiated by Aaron Chambers in late August. Chambers had contacted both women separately, under the pretense of an accountability retreat, a private, closed-door discussion on trauma and closure. Once the group convened at the Mohican cabin, Chambers allegedly unveiled a plan to confront Kessler, claiming, "We'll put fear in her, like she did to us." But it ends with her walking away. Scared, not scarred. Brent reportedly hesitated. Pritchard Fenton claimed she remained unsure but didn't want to break ranks. On October 18, all 3 arrived separately at pre-agreed locations. Chambers lured Kessler via the spoofed email. Brent, posing as a trail coordinator, guided her off the main path. Pritchard Fenton waited in a parked vehicle nearby. What happened next diverged sharply in each version. Pritchard Fenton claimed Chambers arrived at the clearing just as Brent and Kessler exchanged words. When Kessler, confused and recognizing Brent, demanded to know what was going on, Chambers stepped forward and struck her. A short struggle followed. Brent tried to intervene but froze. Chambers allegedly retrieved the zip ties and restrained Kessler, who by then was disoriented and partially incapacitated. She tightened the cord too fast. Too hard. Michelle started choking. Aaron didn't stop. She watched her go limp. At this point, Pritchard Fenton said she tried to pull Chambers off but was pushed back. Brent screamed, then ran. The entire sequence lasted under 2 minutes. In contrast, Chambers, when informed of Pritchard Fenton's plea, refused all offers. Her attorney filed a motion to suppress statements made by co-defendants, claiming coercion and hearsay violations. She maintained her innocence, asserting she never left the roadside during the encounter. But GPS and tower logs showed her phone moved 400 yards off-path between 14:46 and 15:18 hours, precisely matching the death window. Brent, through counsel, indicated willingness to testify in exchange for a capped sentence. On November 10, 2023, she agreed to plead guilty to conspiracy to commit assault, with a maximum sentence of 6 years, eligible for parole in 4. Her testimony corroborated key aspects of Pritchard Fenton's statement, but emphasized her withdrawal at the moment violence escalated. "It wasn't supposed to go that far. I wanted her scared. Aaron wanted her silent." In internal memos, prosecutors noted Brent's cooperation as limited but credible. Surveillance records, digital traces, and Brent's partial prints placed her at the scene, but no forensic evidence directly tied her to the act of strangulation. The focus shifted squarely to Chambers. She now stood alone. On December 1, 2023, a grand jury returned a 5-count indictment against Aaron Joe Chambers. First-degree murder, kidnapping, criminal conspiracy, tampering with evidence, unlawful use of telecommunications to commit fraud. Her trial was scheduled for February 2024. Prosecutors prepared to make the case that the revenge killing, once imagined as collective catharsis, had been commandeered by a single, cold architect. The State of Ohio versus Aaron Joe Chambers commenced on February 5, 2024, at the Wayne County Court of Common Pleas, with Judge Myra Eston presiding. Chambers, now 34, appeared in court each day in a gray pantsuit, silent, unflinching, and surrounded by legal counsel. The prosecution's case relied on 3 pillars: digital records, forensic evidence, and testimony from Brent and Pritchard Fenton. Cell tower logs and GPS mapping placed Chambers at the scene during the time of death. The email lure traced to her stylometric signature. Vacuum debris from the interior of her vehicle matched soil from the field. Most damning was Brent's courtroom statement. Michelle begged her to stop. Aaron didn't say anything. She just pulled tighter. Chambers' defense attempted to reframe the timeline. Her attorney suggested Pritchard Fenton had acted on her own, panicking when the confrontation turned physical. They painted Brent as an unreliable narrator, traumatized, suggestible, and eager to avoid prison. But under cross-examination, Chambers' alibi crumbled. She admitted she had entered the trail briefly and that she had words with Kessler. Though denying she ever touched her, inconsistencies between her statements and digital data points grew impossible to dismiss. On February 23, after 9 hours of deliberation, the jury returned its verdict. Guilty on first-degree murder. Guilty on kidnapping. Guilty on criminal conspiracy. Guilty on tampering with evidence. Guilty on telecommunications fraud. Sentencing was held March 1, 2024. Chambers received life in prison without parole. Following the conviction of Aaron Joe Chambers, attention turned to the broader implications of the case, both legal and psychological. Julia Lynn Brent began her sentence at the Ohio Reformatory for Women in Marysville. Despite having no prior criminal record, her plea deal placed her in medium security. She remains eligible for parole in 2028. Prison officials described her behavior during intake as subdued, compliant, but emotionally shut down. Naomi Pritchard Fenton was transferred to the Franklin Medical Center due to a documented autoimmune condition. Her sentence of 9 to 15 years included eligibility for early parole after 7. In April 2024, she submitted her first parole petition, which remains under review. Michelle Kessler's family established a memorial fund in her name dedicated to conflict resolution and peer intervention programs in high schools across northeastern Ohio. On April 7, 2024, they held a public Run for Michelle event, a 5K that drew over 200 attendees. Her mother, speaking for the first and only time, stated, "She was someone's daughter, someone's friend. She was also someone's regret. But she didn't deserve to die because of what she was at 16. The Ohio Department of Education initiated a district-level audit of past bullying reports at Triway High School. Though no direct policy failure was cited, the review resulted in a mandatory restorative justice program for all freshmen and a dedicated alumni grievance protocol. The broader public reaction to the case was deeply divided. Some saw the killing as cold and premeditated, a moral collapse disguised as therapeutic reckoning. Others, especially survivors of long-term bullying, expressed conflicted sympathy with the perpetrators, suggesting that unaddressed trauma can fester into catastrophic harm. In academic circles, the Triway case became a teaching model in both criminology and psychology programs. Courses used it to examine delayed retaliation, conspiratorial behavior among trauma-linked groups, and the failure of accountability mechanisms in adolescent environments. Aaron Joe Chambers remains incarcerated at the Ohio Reformatory for Women under Inmate ID #46738-82. She filed an appeal in March 2024, citing ineffective counsel and judicial bias. The motion was denied without hearing. The case file was officially marked closed by the Ohio State Police on April 10, 2024, with no further suspects under investigation. Despite its resolution, the Triway Revenge Murder Case left behind no clear moral closure, only 3 ruined lives, 1 death, and a high school memory that proved impossible to bury. Status: closed. Designation: Joint Conspiracy Homicide. Case ID: OSP 2023-0971A. Filed by Detective Lanning, BCI Division.